Jai Sairam, welcome Indira. So happy to have you here for this session. And I am excited because I know that you have some profound experiences you've had with Swami, and we are looking forward to hearing some of those. Tell us a little bit about your background, where you're from, how your family knows Swami. Sairam.
Sairam. First of all, thank you for the opportunity to share some of these experiences with Swami. And of course, I offer my deepest gratitude to Swami for the opportunity, and as well as for giving us this human birth, to enable us to know our true divine nature. This is the journey that we undertake with Swami, is to understand and experience our divinity. So I came to Swami when I was about 6 years old. It was in 1960. I was born into a Hindu family, and my parents lived in Madras at the time. And my coming to Swami coincided with my father's passing in 1960. He was diagnosed with cancer, and he died very quickly after that. And a few weeks after the event, Swami appeared in my mother's dream in the form of a picture. It was a large picture that was hanging on the wall, and she was looking at this picture, and it turned out that from the picture talked, and it said, "Come to Puttaparthi, come to Prashanti Nilayam." She did not know of Swami. She did not know about Swami. So the picture was really important because she got to see what he looked like. This person who was appearing in the dream had this hair, head of hair, and the orange robe, a very young person. And he had his hand held up in the form of a blessing. And he was basically letting her know that she should come visit. And she didn't pay a lot of attention to it at first, but then she had the same dream on a second night. It was a few nights later. And she knew then that there was something significant about this. And so she spoke to her mother. My grandmother was living with us at the time. She said, "I don't know who this person is." And so they started to inquire, to ask around and find out who this person was. And turned out that we knew someone who was actually Swami's follower. And she said, "Of course, that's Sathya Sai Baba. He lives in Puttaparthi, he lives in Andhra Pradesh, and we should go see him, and I know how to get there." So that's how it started. And a few months later, we got packed. We had, our sleeping bags, the buckets, and the stove, and pretty much everything traveled with us. And so our clothes, various other things. And so we undertook this journey, which of course, has been described by many other devotees. But we took the train to Bangalore, and from Bangalore to Penukunda, a second train. And then we got off that train and took a bus to Bukkapatnam. And from there, a horse carriage, and from there, the bullock cart. So this was, it was very interesting. And we got to Swami's ashram it was around dusk. It was around 6-ish, 5, 6-ish. And the bhajans had just ended. And we were told to just go inside and just find a tree that you're comfortable sleeping under, and put your things down. There were hardly any rooms at the time. There was a row of what we call flats, apartments on the left side. So that would be East Prashanti at the present time. And we didn't know anybody. We didn't speak Telugu. So my grandmother, this friend of ours, and the two of us, we set everything up under a tree. And we were getting ready to go to bed. And somebody walks over to my mother, and it turned out to be Mr. Kasturi. And he called my mother by her name, which was Vasanti. And he said, "Is your name Vasanti?" And she said, "Yes." And he said, Baba has sent me to welcome you to the ashram. He said he's been waiting for you for quite some time, and he wants me to give you a room. So my mother was completely confused. She said, how did this strange person know my name, where I was coming from? And he also spoke to her in the language that she was familiar with, which is the language from Kerala, which is Malayalam. So this was all very confusing to her. And she said, how did Baba know my name? And guess what Kasturi's answer was? He said, Baba knows everything. He said, he knows everything about you, about me, about everything. And he said, welcome to Swami's avatarhood. He said, you're in for a wonderful treat. And this is the beginning of a very wonderful spiritual journey for you. And that first visit, we had about 3 interviews. I remember that. And in those days, Baba would tell us when he was going to call us. He would also tell us when we should leave, and so on and so forth. So it was a very warm, very loving, extraordinary, happiness, extraordinary bliss. And even as a little child, I could sense that Swami was different, not just that he was materializing Vibhuti, which he does, when you walk into the interview room, but just a love, he was just a wonderful melting sort of love and affection that he showed us. Was really wonderful. So that's how we came to Baba.
Talk about a great childhood memory. Age 6, just old enough to remember for it to kind of stay in your memory as well. And did you all get the chance to go to Chitravathi at that time? Was he doing that regularly?
Yes, that was actually one of my favorite memories of the early days of Bharti. So we visited quite frequently. Baba had told us to come as frequently as possible. So we actually would go back every couple of months. We happened to be there one time, and he took us all to the river. There must have been about maybe 50 to 100 people. It was a small group, and mostly people from that area, from the Nilayam, and a few close devotees. And I still remember being a child. Of course, they always kept the children at the back of the gathering. But my mother happened to, she said, come, and she put me on her lap, had me sit on her lap, and I could see what Swami was doing. So first thing he did was to give a talk, and he sang some bhajans. He sat on like a mound, the devotees would make a mound of with the sand, and he sat on it, gave a talk, sang bhajans. And then he said, now it's time for the Amrita. So what he did was he drew the picture of a glass, what they call a tumbler, and he put his hand in, and he brought out a silver tumbler. It was like maybe, about 8 inches in height. And then he materialized a spoon to go with that. And he sent someone with the tumbler. He asked him to go to the river and rinse it out because it had sand in it. So this, I think it was a little boy who ran to the river, washed it, and brought it back. And then Swami materialized Amrita from the palm of his hand. And the way it was, I'll just show it to you, it just kind of, the palm split open, and this nectar kept dropping. There were several drops of this fluid that went into the glass, into the tumbler. And he did that for a while, and then he stopped and, kind of wiped his hand with a handkerchief. And then he asked all of us to go back to the ashram. And he would have us sit in rows, and, these 3 or 4 drops of the Amrita was given to about 100 or 200 people. It was amazing. Talk about multiplying food or multiplying liquid, to make sure that everybody got some of it. And those days were very precious because we'd follow Swami as he walked forward and walked back from the river. Very close contact.
That's such a blessing. It's unbelievable, actually, that you were there. We could probably do 4 or 5 hours just on the little details of those early days. Anything else you remember from the 60s when you were a child?
The other thing he did tell us was about Prema Sai, if I may just mention that. In one of our interviews, he said he created this, we call it the Vishvarupa, which is a picture of Vishnu. And in the picture, there's Shirdi Sai Baba, Sathya Sai Baba, and there was a blob at the bottom. There were no features in it, just a sort of a mass of hair. And he showed us the pendant and he said, so this is Shirdi. And then he said, this is me, pointing to himself. And then he said, this third one here that has nothing on it, no features, that's Prema Sai Baba. This was in 1964. We had never heard of Prema Sai Baba. This was in our interview. We were the little ones at the time. We said the children will get to see him. And he said, Prema Sai is coming after me. And he said, I'm preparing everything so that he can come and continue the work. And he will be the last of this tri-avatar. So I have the pendant with me right now. Shirdi Sai very well was the biggest face among the three of them. Sathya Sai Baba was, you could tell that was Swami, but the Prema Sai was blank. There was nothing on the face. But we've seen over time that there are some spots on it and what looks like a head of hair and some facial features. But he said the face will be fully formed when he is born and takes avatarhood. He said they won't be very clear, but you'll see that there's some sort of the appearance of eyes and a nose, and the face will start to take shape and form. So we have seen some things actually come up on the in that space, but it's not, to me it's not yet a fully formed face, but we're seeing some activity there.
Yes, and it's very interesting, actually, this idea of something that's going to form as Prema Sai forms, because it's such a connection to Swami and an integral living thing, which, his manifestations can be that way. Did he ever give you any specific insights in regards to previous lives, how you had earned the merit to be so close to him and how you were getting all this attention now? Or did he tell you anything about those past lives?
So what I do remember is him telling us that we were with him in previous incarnations, Shirdi and Rama, Krishna, and so on. And he said we were a cluster of souls. That's the 3 of us or the 4 of us in the family, and that we incarnated so that we could be with him. And he said, I brought you here early in my avatarhood because of Prema. He said, we want to spend time together, share love, share these happy times, because he would joke a lot, he would make a lot of jokes and we would laugh and we would, really enjoy the humor. He also said, enjoy this now because the time is coming when this ashram will be filled with people from all over the world. Now at that time, there were only a few people there, and they were mostly people from the local area, mostly people from India. There were a few Westerners, few foreigners from other countries, but very few. He said, I know you don't believe me, Baba says. I know you think this is, what is Swami saying? He's just saying something. He said, you watch. Just give it a few years and you'll see people from all over the world coming here. I will be calling them, and those who come here are called by me. And then he said, at that time you'll think, Baba's forgotten us. Baba's not looking at us, because you'll be in the audience with the darshan, in the darshan line, and I may not be looking at you, but I know exactly where you're sitting. I know exactly what you're thinking of. So Swami's there with you all the time. Swami will always take care of you. It's been a wonderful journey.
Absolutely wonderful. Jai Sai Ram, thank you so much for sharing.
Thank you, Sai Ram. Thank you very much.